has been too much violence, too much pain. Just walk away. Just walk away. And there will be an end to the horror.
I've welcome everybody. If we have any live viewers at the moment, back to MGTOW Chats episode 135. Today we're having a chat with Mr. Paul Elam, who I don't think needs too much of an introduction, but we will introduce him anyway. Paul is an author and also the founder of A Voice for Men, which is, like you said before we went on the stream, kind of the flagship of men rights sites, and it's been that way for, you said, 10 years?
Yep. We launched in early 2009, so
Okay.
we're right on the money.
Right on, man. And everything's going well for you today, Paul?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm glad to be
Absolutely.
talking to you guys.
Right on. It's nice to finally reach out to you, man. I mean, I both Lamper and I have been listening to your work for a long, long time. So it's nice to finally meet up and have a chat.
Someone out there was listening. I just didn't know it was you.
I'm sure there's a few people listening. You know.
One or two.
Yeah. And Lamprey's here as always. Are you doing all right, buddy?
Doing great.
Good.
Happy fall.
Happy fall. Yeah. This is we haven't done a stream in a month, so if anybody's out there listening, it's been a while, and for good reason. I've kind of taken a little hiatus from the internet. We'll see how that goes. Bit of a headache. That's what happens when you get kicked off of every social media platform. You sort of get tired of it.
I heard that.
Yeah, man. Now, Paul, you are your website is avoiceformen.com. I believe I have it here. Is that
Yep,
correct?
yeah, that is correct.
Okay, good. Voiceformen.com. You can also find some of his books on Amazon. And you are also doing a project now, or I don't know if I call it a project, but I know I've seen you collaborating, and I'm getting email notices from Men Are Good.
Yep.
Is that what it's called? Uh,
Well, it's regarding men.
regarding men. That's right. Regarding men.
Yeah,
Right.
that's something that I'm working with Tom Golden and Janice Fiamingo on. And what we're doing is we're hosting group meetings 7 days a week for red pill guys to be able to be in an environment with other red pill guys live, sort of as face to face as you can get,
Nice.
uh, considering it's not actually face to face, but we use Zoom platform
Hmm.
and we do group meetings every day of the week that last anywhere from 90 minutes to 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
And all of them are hosted by people who have a vested interest in men's issues and a lot of knowledge about men's issues. And it's going great. So you don't even have, I mean, honestly, the response to this has been phenomenal.
Oh, right on. That's good to
Groups
hear.
are really crowded, and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I've seen you guys doing that. I might have to try and join one of these times. Check it out.
You're welcome, man. I'll get you a link,
Okay.
and you can show up and test drive it if you like,
If
and
you
you can report back to your people
sure.
about what you see.
If you want to later on, we're on D Live right now, so I can't put any links up now. But when we do post this to BitChute, we can also put that link up if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, great. And if
perfect.
you guys wouldn't mind, I mean, I'm very proud of avoiceformen.com. Like you pointed out, it's
Hmm.
been the men's rights flagship for 10 years. But what I'm really pumped about right now is regardingmen.com.
Mm,
Uh, this is really paying off for the guys that participate.
okay, right on, man. Now, now that we're kind of getting into like some of the work you've done and continue to do you want to kind of maybe tell a bit of a story on how you came to set up a voice for men? Because I imagine it'd be quite interesting.
Well, it started in 1993, actually, when I read The Myth of Male Power.
Okay.
When it first came out. I'm a long-time mental health professional. I worked with addictions counselings for 35 years. But back in the early 90s, Farrell put out that book, and I had just sort of, I think like a lot of guys, I had walked around in life and I just knew something was wrong, right? Between men and women. But, we aren't raised with even a language to describe this stuff. So I was walking around trying to put my finger on what was wrong. And I knew that there was something was messed up. And another therapist, interestingly enough, a female, recommended this book to me, said she had heard about it and recommended it. I went and got it and stayed up almost 2 complete nights reading it, and just absolutely changed my life. And what was interesting, because I worked in the mental health environment, I thought this is really great information. A lot of stuff about men's mental health issues is in there, and the unique things that men deal with in life are discussed in there. And I thought, yeah, I could share this with my peers and they'll get the benefit of it too. Well, my peers were not that enthused. And
so you meant like a lot of friction when you tried to bring it forward.
Oh, not friction, overt hostility.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
I mean, like if looks could kill, I would have been dead 10 times over.
Were they mostly men or women?
Both.
Both, eh? Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple of guys that were like, yeah, I feel you, but don't tell them I said so, right?
Yeah, right.
But the women were out of their fucking minds with, what do you mean, men's issues? What do you mean, we treat women better than men? That's the biggest lie I ever heard in my life.
Right. And
the more that they didn't like it, the more I kind of enjoyed speaking about it. I'm just being honest here.
Yeah.
And it ruffled feathers, but my job was secure. I had a few people try to get me fired. They couldn't get that done. And the hostility really taught me a lesson, because I was really pretty naive. I really thought, wow, this is new data. This is stuff we haven't looked at. We can sit down and look at this and help people.
Right.
Well, they were interested in help people as long as it was women first.
Right.
And pretty much women only. And that started a revolution in my own personal life. I began to look at women differently. I did a lot of things in that area I probably shouldn't get into. But I just saw the world differently, and it bothered me more and more and more the way that people were so resistant that if you gave them any data, like, by the way, it's not just women that get physically abused and sexually abused in relationships.
Right.
And you tell that to the average person, and it's almost like, you ever seen a turtle pull up inside its shell?
Yep.
That's what people do. And the more they did that, the more frustrated I became. We didn't have, in 93, we didn't have I think there was something of an internet then, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was actually 98, the first time I bought the domain A Voice for Men. And the internet was still, it was like Yahoo groups and things like that. We just didn't have the development that we do now. And so I waited. I was frustrated. I waited. And long about 2008, I started writing on these issues, got onto forums with that. Mike LaSalle of Men's News Daily, which used to be the big, if there was a flagship back then for men's issues, that was it. But it was really a group of tradcons.
Right.
And so I started writing for Men's News Daily. Eventually, Mike made me the editor-in-chief, and I ran a bunch of his traffic off.
It scared away a bunch of people.
It scared away a bunch of people because It started with an essay I wrote because all the tradcons were just furious about gay marriage, right?
Oh, of course.
So I wrote an article called "Gay Marriage?" Question mark. How about no marriage?
Oh,
Nice, nice.
And challenged the tradcons to the fact that they had let feminists come into family courts and destroy their supposedly sacred institution,
Yeah,
a long time before anybody started talking about gay marriage.
that's right.
They
yeah, the bar door's wide open, and now they're crying about it.
Exactly. And so my position was, man, if gay people want to be stupid and invite the state into their lives and into their bedrooms, I thought the whole point of the gay rights movement was to get away from the state being in their bedroom. But hey, I don't want to question their logic. You go right ahead and get married. But the point is that marriage is mostly destructive for heterosexual males.
Yes.
Well, a lot of that happened under, you're obviously much older than us. You're my parents' age, and I'm parents' age. A lot of that tradcon stems from your generation, and there was the takeover in the courts came under the Reagan administration because he reinforced the whole tradcon perspective that's now a bit of an issue in
Well,
the
yeah,
United States. Yeah.
he signed no fault divorce into law in California.
Yeah.
As governor. Yes, and it wasn't just my generation or my parents' generation. It was 1,000 generations before that
Yeah.
have reinforced this whole chivalric notion and romantic notion about women that we live with in the West. I think one debt that we do owe feminists is that they ultimately, I mean, it wasn't what their intention was, but they ultimately exposed the ruse for what it is.
Hmm. I agree with that. And you got to remember too, like when you were saying, after you read The Myth of Male Power and you started questioning these things and trying to bring it up to people, and the looks you got and the hatred you got, that kind of reaction, it tells you how deep this social conditioning has gone. Like,
Absolutely. And you know what? You'll see that now in members of Antifa. It's really a part of the human condition. I don't think, and I've heard this sometimes from younger MGTOW and what have you, that there is a mantle of responsibility on the boomer generation for this. I don't buy that at all. This predates boomers, and it absolutely postdates us too,
Yep.
because it's still going on.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like the social conditioning is so deep. Like you said, there wasn't even a language existing to express.
Exactly right. We had no concept of challenging female privilege.
Hmm.
I mean, it's just taken for granted. Women are disadvantaged. They need men's help. You need to shut up and help them. That's all there is. So we don't develop even the critical thinking skills about this stuff. And it takes, unfortunately, for most men, some pretty bad circumstances to get them to wake up.
Yes, 100%. It took a divorce for me to wake up.
Yep. That's the way it does with a lot of them. And look, you're smarter than me. I got a divorce, a really nasty one, and I still didn't wake up. I was just like permanently retarded. But the intellectual appeal that Farrell made was so powerful, so devastating. That's what rattled me out of my complacency.
Right. Well, I guess I can't blame it all on just the divorce because I got divorced in around 2009 or 10, I guess. And at that time, the internet was starting to fill up with a lot of this message, right? So it was the divorce that pushed me towards these kind of conversations. And so it wasn't just the divorce. I did have a little help from the outside.
Well, that's good. I mean, whatever it takes to get us there.
Yeah.
And fortunately, whether even guys want to call themselves MGTOW or not, or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the calling out feminist bullshit is the first step toward calling out female bullshit. And it's
Yep.
and of course, you're seeing them panic now, wondering where all the real men went. And I'm like, God, you're really asking that question?
Yeah,
Well, let me build upon that. You see now with like the ongoing civil unrest, young women still trying to have avocado toast in Rochester, in D.C., and there they are having brunch or whatever, and they get blasted by a loudspeaker, a bullhorn of people screaming that they want, social justice and what have you. And now even AOC says brunch is over. She made that statement this week.
Yep.
There's no time for brunch. So a lot of these feminists, with their doggies, no more yoga's over, sweetheart. So what now?
well, naturally, if things get bad, women look to men to protect them.
Sure they do.
And I think that's no matter how much a single woman might say she hates men, when the shit hits the fan, whose shoulder is she gonna cry on?
Oh, yeah, and I've seen the hypocrisy, the rank hypocrisy of women in one breath demanding equality and also demanding that you carry their bags.
Yes.
If that is getting worse in some ways. I don't know if it's ever going to improve. I think most men will remain dumbed down blue pill simps. I think that's the majority of men.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why this stuff doesn't change.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the onus on this falls back on men.
Yep, 100%. In the years that I've been kind of involved in these in men's communities, online and offline to some degree, I came to the conclusion that I think I would specifically say the modern Western woman is the most privileged class that has existed in recorded history.
And in prehistory, too.
The
The most pampered, privileged, spoiled class of human being that has ever existed on the face of this planet.
That's right.
And they still insist they're oppressed.
I know. That's what I find so amazing. Just that generational doublethink is incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
I mean, think about it. For women to protest the presidency of the United States, fly all the way to D.C., camp out in front. Like if you're so oppressed, you wouldn't be able to hold such a rally. It's laughable.
Well, marching the streets with their tits hanging out, man.
And wearing pink hats. It's unbelievable.
Well, believe me, you don't have to sell me on the idea. I know it's absolutely insane what's going on, and the lack of dissonance in this is just amazing. Like I said, a woman can say, I want to be treated equal to any man, open the door for me. And she will experience not even a moment's hesitation.
Yeah.
There's absolutely, and I think it goes back, it's similar to the consciousness I carried that didn't allow me to even think in terms of seeing this rationally.
Mm-hmm.
Women, most people are the same way. They don't ever think about this stuff. They don't challenge those beliefs. So when a woman says, I demand equal pay, buy my dinner, we just sort of like bobbleheads nod our heads and say, yeah, okay, sure, that sounds good. And they do this without a hint that they're being hypocritical.
Yeah.
With no whatsoever. Yeah.
And another thing too, Paul, is this is a cross-cultural phenomenon. Both Lamprey and I spent a long time in Asia, and it's the same. It's the same.
Is it really?
Yes, it's the same. It's the concept of what did you call it? Chivalry or gynocentrism. It's cross-cultural, man.
They do it in a haphazard manner. So, like in Cambodia, for example, they would celebrate Valentine's Day, but they don't know what the concept of love is. So there's a huge, a lot of guys wind up raping these young women because they think it means automatically they get laid, because they have this warped view of what love is, and they don't understand it through a Western lens.
Yeah, and I noticed in my 13 years in Indonesia that it's very gynocentric, man, very gynocentric. Uh, you are always supposed to be chivalric to women. It's very much so like that.
Well, the
For,
media also plays a major hand in all this. I mean, I call it the perpetual Disney dreams, where she can, be an astronaut and marry a hedge fund manager and have like 6 kids and drive a BMW. That just doesn't exist.
yeah,
But
And
in her mind, that's her
never get
perception, what she's
stretch.
entitled to.
Yeah, she'll do all that with no stretch marks.
yeah.
Right.
You know, I think there is a slight counterbalance though in some of these Southeast Asian countries where they don't really have the sort of the the lifestyle, the living style that we have in the West. So, for example, there's a more of a class divide, I guess I should say. So, for
Okay.
example, if you're let's say you're a woman and you you steal something, you're going to get treated equally when you go to court, especially if you're poor. So there's a little bit of justice in that system because I actually know women personally that are in prison right now over there. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay. Well, there's some notion of equality there.
yes, some notion of equality. And oh, actually, not that we're on this topic, quickly a story. I don't know if you heard about it, but this happened about oh god, maybe 8 years ago. Uh, a very very pretty female Australian female got busted smuggling heroin into Indonesia.
Ooh,
Very young, very pretty, almost model esque looks. Just very pretty white woman. Tried to smuggle heroin. I don't know if she got bullied into it or she knew exactly what she was doing, but she got busted. And she's still in prison. And I don't feel bad.
no. Oh, God. I mean, you, we have the internet these days.
Yeah.
I would do a little Google on smuggling penalties, Indonesia.
Yeah, man, you don't do that.
I think that would cure me if I had any ambition whatsoever to smuggle drugs across. I mean, it's like, yeah, what's next?
Yeah, yes.
You're going to smuggle it into Turkey. Uh,
Well, and the thing too is there was a huge campaign, in Australia to get her out, And I'm thinking if that was a dude, man, no one would give a shit. No
Or
one
they
would
would say,
care.
they would say execute them.
No, and and this is the one privilege she does have as a pretty white woman there. They didn't kill her because the penalty for that is death.
oh, okay.
So
So there is chivalry in the courts too.
there's a little bit, yeah, but she's still in
Yeah.
jail. So there's at least that.
Well, at least in America, she would be on a talk show selling a book about
Yes.
and talking about her struggle against the oppressive Indonesian system.
Yep. Absolutely, man. So there's a few little things, living in Asia, I saw a few stories like that happen, and like I another friend of mine who was working in Indonesian girl who was working in Saudi Arabia uh, knew a Western woman who got busted for just indecent exposure of some kind, and ended up in prison. And of course, everyone cried. But that's what the Western woman does. She has so much freedom. She can travel as much as she wants to. So much
She
privilege.
she she treats the world like it's her own living room.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. And a lot of that has to do with just the consumption patterns. If as society gets pulled further and further out of poverty, regardless of how you feel about COVID or the developing world being pulled out of poverty, these are the type of things you eventually see because the woman doesn't have to carry bricks to a job site that's like 3 miles away. So with automation, with the industrialization of the developing world, this is what you see, and without foreign wars or being invaded. A lot of these countries like Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, they're always in a constant state of war, and women can't have those type of luxuries when you're being bombed. So
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you mentioned this, it reminded me of some of the research I did some years ago, because the environment's a very big topic right now.
Hmm.
Climate change, and everybody's freaking out about climate change, and looking at the awful carbon footprint from the petrochemical industry. If you look at women's rampant consumerism, it, it, it's like, something. I never saw a man wearing a fucking baby seal. Never saw that happen. They don't do, cruel animal research on cosmetics for men.
Yeah.
They don't make SUVs that run to the mall 3 times a week for men.
No, they don't.
Women are fucking up the environment. And if it's being fucked up at all, I just think we ought to be paying more attention to that. That if we could intervene, people that are truly concerned about the environment, I challenge them all to take a look at women's consumerism and begin to estimate the huge impact that they have on the environment just with their consumer habits.
Yeah, the carbon footprint of the female, that would be interesting to see because
Yep.
back in the day when I was doing a lot of research too, I did see statistics on women's consumption come up a number of times, and it was 3 times that of men.
Absolutely. They consume almost all the healthcare. They consume almost everything.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you give
Well,
most guys on average, if I'm a single guy living somewhere, give me a couple of cinder blocks and a 2x4, a couple of those, and I have a stereo shelf.
yeah. That's right. That's right.
No way.
well, we had Paul Podius on recently. Not recently, maybe 2 years ago, I should say. He makes a point that has anybody else noticed that women's cars are getting bigger and men's cars are getting smaller? We see the modern mom. She's driving around this SUV that gets 40 feet to the gallon. What's going on here? Why is this happening?
Well, that's the market.
Hmm.
And, we are now a society that drives primarily SUVs.
Yes.
I mean, nobody wants to buy sedans anymore, except maybe a few men.
Yeah, a few men that just have to drive themselves around. You know?
Absolutely right. This is, you look at 2/3 of the student loan debt is female,
Hmm.
all for a bunch of bullshit humanities degrees that won't even get them employed. So we got to turn around and rape the taxpayers more to compensate for the lack of payoff in the student loans. And even the ones that go into STEM or to the hard scientists, female medical doctors, go spend $150,000, $200,000 on an education or more in medical school, and then 2, 3 years later decide they want to have a baby and not want.
Yep.
Yeah, and they don't put nearly as much money into the system to warrant to be taking that much out.
Well, they don't put any money in through earnings, but they sure as hell spend a lot, and it's not their money they're spending.
No, it's ours.
Yes.
Because what they don't get out of us using their pussy, they use the government to get.
That's right. That's right, man. And it's really bad in I don't know if you agree with this, Paul, but I think the most horrible aspect of gynocentrism in the state is the divorce courts. Would you agree with that?
I'd have to say yes. That is, as far as where gynocentrism and romantic chivalry, which is another toxic ideology.
Hmm.
Those things, where those two things converge, is in our family courts, and it is the most horrific repeal of human civil rights since Jim Crow.
Yes. Yes. That's why I redid the John Lennon song and did "Man is the nigger of the world."
Yep.
That pissed a lot of people off.
Something they can be pissed off, and they're pissed off because it's true.
Yes.
It's objectively true.
Yes.
You can't even make an argument. for the other way around. Nothing sensible anyway.
Yeah. Well, the what you mentioned with gynocentrism and chivalry, toxic chivalry meeting together in the court systems of the state, that is the cause of death.
Sure it is.
It's killing men, literally killing them. And people,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and people just don't give a shit.
Well, the suicide rate for men on a good day is 4-to-1 disproportionate from women. During the process of breakup or divorce, another thing I learned from reading Warren Farrell, it goes to 11-to-1.
Jesus.
And I can tell you, because I'm a private practice counselor and I work with men who are divorcing, their own families turn on them and side with the outsider, with the woman.
Yeah.
Their friends turn on them. Their employers turn on them. It's absolutely amazing. And then they say, gee, well, actually, if they cared, they would say, gee, why are so many men committing suicide? But they're not bothering to ask.
Yeah, they don't even ask, man.
No.
Unbelievable. Well,
I remember, this is just a little anecdote. I remember talking to a guy that was just about through in his master's program at the University of Houston in counseling psychology. Mm-hmm. And he was just a matter of weeks from finishing his master's degree and was at my house, and we were just in a conversation about this. And I said, well, why do you think so many men commit suicide? And his answer was a very aggravated, I don't know. Wow. That's from a mental health professional.
Wow. I mean, that gets into the education system and everything. I mean, my own brother got his license taken away because he couldn't pay child support. So now he couldn't drive to work.
That's one of the ways they crush them. They take driver's license, professional license, as though, I mean, and it doesn't even make sense. If the objective is to get the money,
yeah,
why do you target their ability to make money?
Yeah. And
to be honest, that comes from the Reagan era. I did a whole research on where this whole thing where the government becomes the bigger daddy. And it was a shame tactic after the feminist movement. So many women wanted divorces. The divorce rate skyrocketed, and they were trying to figure out a way other than alimony on how to get the husband to pay into the system and pay her, and the apparatus of the Lawyers Guild, all these attorneys. The amount of money attorneys make off of a broken family is astonishing. It's the greatest wealth redistribution in United States history. It wasn't through Wall Street, it was through divorce.
Yep, that is absolutely correct. And there's a lot of dead bodies in the wake of those changes.
Yes, yeah. But and also you said it doesn't make sense because, like you said, if you were taking a man's ability to earn a living away from him, how do you expect to get the money? That's why I sometimes think that underneath it all, there's just a real hatred of men themselves, man.
Oh yeah, and there's the self-destructive element of the female psyche involved in this too. You know, women will know, okay, if I go after him, they'll put him in jail and he can't make money. But for so many of them, their vindictiveness is more important than the support of their children.
Jesus.
Yeah, we do see that quite common with Western women where they put themselves ahead of the child. See it all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the default setting of the Western woman.
It is, yeah.
Is that she is the one that matters. Children are property. She will do with them as she wishes.
Well,
she treats the baby like an extension, like it's like her cell phone or a pocketbook. That's the way she treats her children now.
Yeah, like property.
It's a status symbol. It's more like a status symbol. Like, I can afford a baby and you can't. You're stuck with doggies. Like, that's kind of her attitude now about it.
Oh, and when the decisions come down about what to do with custody arrangements and stuff like that, I love to hear women, I carried that child in my body for 9 months. I bore the pain of that child. And it's like you're talking to somebody that is the coldest, most calculated individual you can possibly imagine. And they are just reveling in their own manufactured victimhood.
Yes. Well, not only that, too, is they actually end up completely destroying the the lives of their own children by demonizing the father.
Sure.
I had my brother. His kids now are this is anecdotal, but my brother's kids now are 13 years old, and both of his daughters have left the mother.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
So there's no lack of intelligence in the children.
Yes. They because she did her best to turn them against him, right? And women do this. They do this to their children.
Sure they do.
And for not in a sort of happy unhappy ending, they get old enough to just tell their mom, you know what, we're sick of your shit and we're moving in with dad. So that does happen occasionally, and a lot of women bite themselves in the ass by doing that.
Yes, they do. That does happen occasionally, but unfortunately, when you have so much control as the custodial parent in the eyes of the court,
Yeah.
and also consider that usually with parental alienation, it begins before the parents break up.
Yes, yeah.
Women are hard at work alienating the father, making the father out to be an idiot in the eyes of the children, demeaning him, encouraging the children to demean him. That's before the divorce. And then after the divorce, when they have all this control, then of course they emotionally blackmail the children.
Yep.
If you don't turn against your father, that means you don't love me.
Yes.
That's the message. And it is patently abusive.
It's evil.
Absolutely evil. In any way you define the word, it's evil, and our courts sanction it.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know, and I guess what you said too, and how some people kind of just shrug their shoulders at it. The information is there for people to learn about these things, but they just, I don't know, nobody wants to look at it, I guess.
Well, where do you think that stems from exactly? Because we've been at it now for like 50, 70 years since since really this type of feminism really started taking a hold. I understand the whole chivalry argument. It bores its origins out of England. We are an Anglosphere country. You don't see these type of problems like in Southern Europe or in Africa, or again even parts of Asia. Even though again because of the development, we're starting to see these things spread. But why are American men so apprehensive about dealing these problems?
I think it's romantic chivalry. And you can even remove romance out of there. I mean, and I don't know what goes on in what's left of nuclear families today. I know that in my generation, that to offend your mother, I mean,
yes.
that could be a death sentence, not literally, but you were in big trouble in a home if you ever offended your mother, or if you ever treated her with disrespect. I mean, that was the sure way, and fathers would come home and enforce that with fists and belts and other items on children who don't agree to the contract that the Holy Mother is not to be questioned or criticized or condemned in any way. You can do anything else, inject drugs, get girls pregnant, whatever. We'll live with that. But if you offend your mother, it's a nuclear event.
Right, but how do you defend the mother when she's out twerking at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Well, he's talking about the kind of nuclear family. That doesn't exist anymore.
Right, it's pretty dead. It seems to be pretty dead. And the other thing is, and we've discussed this on the live stream numerous times, has there ever been a society that survived without having the family unit?
I don't think so.
No.
And I mean, we have a lot more symptoms right now of societal decay than just the demise of the family unit.
Yeah.
This Western world is going down, my brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, the writing's on the wall, man.
And you can thank feminism for a lot of that. I mean, there are obviously other factors, but feminism has been the big stick that all authority has been beaten out of society, all of male authority, which is the way that societies flourish, is with male authority and male leadership.
That's right.
And without that, you're screwed. You're screwed in your families. That's why every psychosocial measure by which we measure the well-being of children goes down with father absence. All of it. Teen pregnancy, drug
Paul,
use.
what are you saying? Washington State, the city of Portland, the mayor of, I'm sorry, the governor of Michigan. These are wonderful women.
Yes.
They're great leaders, man. What are you talking about?
Just like women lead.
But you're,
Their feels lead the way.
yeah, you were like you were saying. That's another thing that another topic that's come up many times in our streams is just the amount of damage that happens to kids when they have no fathers, and we often call it fatherlessness, but we really can't. That kind of takes away from the fact that these kids, yeah, sure they have no father, but they're being raised by their mother.
Yeah, there's another way to define what the real problem is.
Yes.
The problem is single mothers.
Yes, yes. You never hear that though.
No, oh my God, it's sacrilege to say that. We're supposed to say, oh, single mothers are the bravest people. Look at what they do. They face the world. All they need is maybe some paycheck from the ex and a little bit of patting over here from the government and a bunch of sympathy from the society around them, treating hoes like heroes.
Yep.
And that's all that's happening here. How can a society not collapse?
Oh,
because she's doing it alone, Paul. She's a hero. What are you saying?
Yes,
Go on.
I'm saying she's an abusive, disgusting parent who has no business with children and no business with the ability to impact anyone's life other than her own.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this. Like I said, I worked for decades in chemical dependency treatment centers. Mm-hmm. Guess what the common theme was with all the drug addicts and crackheads?
Raised by a single mother.
Single mama.
Yeah. That's why I fought so hard, Paul, to have custody of my son.
Yes.
Very, very hard.
Fighting for him.
I got it.
Wow. Awesome.
The only reason I got it, though, is because I was in Asia. I wasn't here.
Right? Oh, yeah. No, you wouldn't have had a chance.
No, here I wouldn't have had a chance.
If your ex was a crack hoe with 5 felonies on her record and needle marks running up her arm, you might have gotten an extra Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right.
If you pass a drug test, because if you test positive for marijuana, you're screwed. But she can she can have the needle hanging out of her arm.
Exactly. She would come into the courtroom with a cigarette dangling out of her mouth, holding the baby. And no problem.
So I want to change gears here.
Okay.
So a month ago, our last live stream, we had someone that two people identified with Incel Face the MLS, and Incel Mantics was on our show with Sandman.
Interesting.
And we would like your take on what you see with this whole Incel movement, because it seems to be a bit of a black hole for guys that are bachelors, let's say.
I would say to start with that nobody with $100 in their pocket is an incel. If I take the term literally, involuntary celibate. If you've got $100 in your pocket, your celibacy is not involuntary. It is voluntary. So I don't know about the name. I don't know that much about the community. I've talked to some of these guys. I met 2 of them, and they were both people with physical handicaps that attended our last conference in Chicago. And I don't know. To me, it's a phenomena that's really more about the Western left. Upshot over sexuality. I mean, I've got a family member, an extended family member, who's a devout leftist in Antifa by now, for all I know. His take was that incels were dangerous to the world around them.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that I think of all the sort of men's groups out there, all the acronyms and men groups out there. I think they're the most demonized.
Yes, they are. Um, I think that the media got a little bit tired of beating up on MGTOW and MRAs. Um, and I think they got diminishing returns. There's only so many hit pieces you can write on red pill guys.
That's right.
Before readers are saying, ho hum, I've been here before. And so incels is something sort of new and fresh that they can paint as a threat narrative. And I don't see it that way. I mean, Elliot Rodger, he was he an incel? That's up to
He
them.
wasn't. He wasn't. It came around during the Toronto van attack. An immigrant from Armenia, steamrolled some people on a sidewalk. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. I thought it was very strange. And after speaking to Incel Mantics and Face the MLS, they seem to be obsessed with looks, as if that's the most important thing that women want, is a guy that's really good looking. I think most people that identify as MGTOW or MRA would say that's not necessarily the case. And they also, a big problem is that they're all on the internet and stuck in some type of negative feedback loop in an echo chamber that reinforces these type of positions. And the lack of places to meet a woman are also a major problem that I see with the next up-and-coming generation. Like, I'm 32. There was still clubs. There was still places to really go out. Social media wasn't as a threat as much.
There was no OnlyFans?
Yeah, there's no OnlyFans. The pornography wasn't streamed 10 years ago like it is today. So I see their point of view to a point, and they seem to be quite militant about their views. And if you say anything else, you're white pill, trad cuck, so on and so forth. So.
Oh yeah, well I've seen some of that from MGTOW and MRAs too, but I agree with you. It's not near to the degree. That's the one thing if I were going to say something judgmental about the incel community, and I would qualify it first by saying I don't believe that any kind of model of something fits every member. I don't think all MGTOWs are alike or MRAs, and I don't think all incels are alike. Mm-hmm. But what I see from them is a lot of learned helplessness. You pointed out the thing about looks. Looks are superficially important to women. Money's a lot more important.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Personal power is a lot more important.
The issue I see is that that's all they know as far as the dating realm is using these apps, and all these apps are owned by the same multinational. So if they're just sitting around not putting an effort to go out and meet someone and just flipping through a Tinder app, yeah, you're going to get depressed. You're going to, lack confidence. And when you see a young woman, 22, on a yacht in Dubai, yeah, you can't provide this for me, I'm better than you type of attitude. Again, the superficiality, the ego preservation. These guys who work a dead-end job just know they can't provide those type of things. So that's where the learned helplessness really comes about.
Yeah, that's, look, I mean, to be brutally honest, the mating game, sexual selection, is a rough business. And most guys don't compete as well as a small percentage. Mm-hmm. That's true for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just for incels. I've had my fair share of luck with women, but man, I had to work at it a lot harder than I saw a lot of guys working at it.
Right.
And then I learned to not work at it, and I got more women. But that's another story entirely. But part of it is, I think there's a lot of truth to the idea that 20% of men get 80% of the sex.
Yeah.
And that's life. Life's rough. Wear a helmet.
Yeah.
If you have a hard time getting laid, there's porn, there's prostitutes. Mm-hmm. There's now making really attractive looking sex dolls. There's all kinds of stuff available as sexual outlets. And it seems to me that what I hear from the incel community most is that they feel unloved. And I get that. And that makes them feel isolated. And sometimes, I think every once in a while, it's going to make an isolated, mentally unstable guy blow his cork
Yeah.
and make something stupid. But that's always been the case in the world. This is not something that just popped up in the last 5 years.
I also found it kind of interesting, ironic maybe, I don't know the proper term, but how as soon as you mention that a guy can't get laid, everyone jumps on him.
Oh yeah, that's one of the primary insults you can give a man. So he's worthless to women,
Yeah. That
and that is isolating, and it's unfortunate, but it's the human species.
yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Well, let me ask you something. If this is the case, and the destruction of the nuclear family and the extended family, where do you see this kind of just panning out for young guys? Do you think they'll just keep going with the self blame and keep popping OxyContin and let the country burn, or do you see some type of future galvanizing force that can unite guys in a solidarity way?
Well, unfortunately, what I see happening, and this is, just a wild guess, but it's my guess, is that we're not going to see an improvement in any of this stuff until after some kind of collapse. I don't think that we can. All we're doing right now is raping men to take care of women,
Hmm.
and it's getting worse. And when resources are even more scarce, like they get during this, whatever your view of the pandemic is, one thing we know is that it's been a tremendous economic hit.
Hmm.
And guess what? When women are in trouble, where do you think they're going to try to get the money for that? It's the same place they always go. They either tax the shit out of men, or they rape them in family courts, or now, what was it, a court case in Australia recently? A guy didn't even live with the girl, and he'd never lived with her under the same roof. All they did was date, and she nailed him for $50,000 a month.
You're
Oh,
pulling my leg. That can't be real.
Yep, it's real.
he must have had a lot of money.
He did have a lot of money. But that's the thing, maybe 50,000 a month for 10 years doesn't really affect a guy like that. But when they take large chunks of money from a guy that makes $40,000 a year,
Yeah.
they're putting him below the poverty line. And yeah, in Australia, you do not have to live with somebody for the state to consider it a de facto marriage. And it's absolutely awful. So times are getting tougher, and I think we're going to see is the more economic woes that we have, um, the more we're going to see men leaned on in this way. Oh yeah, well you dated her 5 years ago, so you better come up with some money. Um, all I tell guys all the time, man, is that wherever you are, if you've got a couple of $300 to spare, spend it on a lawyer
Hmm.
telling you what the laws are like and how to keep yourself safe and how to make sure that you're not going to be viewed as married in the eyes of the state.
Yeah, that's very important
Yes,
because
it is.
those laws aren't going to change anytime soon.
Nope, they're going to get worse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They said
Well,
it.
Australia's always been the beta test for the United States, and we see what's happening during COVID in Australia. I mean, I don't know how true those videos are. I really question everything I see on the internet these days. But yeah, I mean, if they're freaking out over people not wearing face masks and they're doing things like this between just companionship, courtship, meeting a woman, hooking up with her, like, and the state's going to get involved on that type of level. Maybe more men will drive to some type of underground economy. Maybe you'll see a rise of like a black market for different things, where more and more people are going to try avoiding the state, because there's only so much the state can do. Without it collapsing in on itself, trying to chase down a guy that makes $30,000 a year for alimony. Just the state, who's paying for all this stuff, you know?
Yeah, the other guy that's making 30,000.
Yeah, true. True.
Yeah, it's awful, and I honestly think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
But you see other societies within the United States getting, pretty much using the system, making the system work for themselves. The Hispanic community is a great example. So, like, their divorce, they're not divorced. The child out of wedlock birth rate is very high for the Hispanic community on paper, but in reality, is that she's filing as a single mom. Meanwhile, the baby's daddy is still in the house, and they're technically still married. And some underground church got them a wedding lined up where they can share their vows. And so I see things like that, springing up. If more and more of the domestic population keeps adhering to alien orders, such as wearing the face mask, you have immigrants that are pretty much, running parallel to this fucking clown world.
Well, and I think you will see stuff like that. That sounds like a fairly decent solution, although I can't anymore recommend any kind of marriage to anyone. I mean, it would be nice. I mean, this is one of the in a lot of the MGTOW discussions I've seen. One of the things that I disagree with is MRAs have been criticized for trying to change family law, and you talk about an uphill battle. It's a terrible thing, and of course the accusation is that you're just trying to make it easier for men to get on the plantation and harder for them to leave. That's not the case. I mean, these results are catastrophic. We talked about 11-to-1 suicide rate. Mm-hmm. This is killing guys. Family law is killing guys. And, I've unfortunately a couple of times I've had to tell people that were of the other side of the fence of this, saying you're just trying to make the plantation safe, as I've had to tell them that if you got a problem with me trying to help men not get in that situation, I don't give a shit.
Well, that's education, in my opinion. I mean, I think obviously it's an uphill battle to try and change laws, and like you said, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But the least anyone can do is educate men.
Absolutely, and that's where most of our effort is focused. And the idea is to educate them out of getting married.
Yes, yeah.
It's not safe. There's no safe version of that anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
You don't marry women anymore. You marry the state.
That's right.
Because that woman will be gone at some point in almost all cases.
Yeah.
The state will be there though.
Oh yeah. And the state will be there, and the woman will be there to like reap the rewards.
Absolutely, as you're sodomized.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, where do you see the ear for voice for men going forward? What do you what do you see yourself doing in the next coming future?
I'm all wrapped up with regarding men right now. A Voice for Men still has good traffic to the site. We still got we have almost 7,000 articles there now on different aspects of that. It's a great educational tool to go there and just peruse through articles, because you're going to read a lot of good stuff on A Voice for Men. But what we're doing regarding men is what has been missing all this time. How do you help people? You give them service. Mm-hmm. Invite them in, provide some benefit to them. We tried for a few years to get men to come in and get active and to work on this stuff. But we were trying to appeal to the walking wounded, guys that had already been battered and beaten and were still pulling knives out of their backs from family courts. And so what happened was I looked at what the Indians have done, and I talked to Anil Kumar. He's one of the more prominent Indian MRAs. And what they figured out there, because I wanted to know why they seem to be doing so well in organization. He says, because we got together and provided service to them instead of asking them to, put a Band-Aid on their tumors and go to work. Mm-hmm. So that's what I plan on doing. Honestly, I'm 63. This is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. We're going to reach out to men, give them a place to talk where people don't treat them like they're crazy, where they don't get accused of being misogynist. because they object to what happened to them and their kids. Give them a place to feel comfortable and to talk face to face with each other, even if it's just on the internet. It's already proven itself to start real world friendships offline. And
it's amazing you're bringing this up because my cousin's going through a divorce, right? And I get 7-year itch, guys. 7-year itch. When they're married for 7 years, and that's when you start seeing trouble. And she's decided to divorce you at year 5, and the 2 years after that are just like fumes on deciding when she's going to leave or not. And my cousin got a divorce. There's an infant, 2 years old. Not an infant, he's 2 years old, toddler. And everyone's sympathizing with her and won't even listen to his side of the argument whatsoever at all. Where's a guy like that supposed to reach out and speak to if his own family members on both sides won't even give him a chance to speak? It's crazy.
Bingo, that's exactly right. And that's exactly what we want to provide. I mean, we can't change the family court. We can't change what he's going through, but we can give him a place where other men in real time will listen, who want to hear what's happened, will listen and provide some kind of intellectual and emotional support during, the rape, as it were. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes when there's nothing else you can do, that's going to provide a lot of value to guys. At least that's the feedback that we're getting in there right now.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think that actually saves lives, man.
I think it does too. Most guys, I think, that kill themselves during divorce is because the whole world has turned on them.
Yes, completely isolated.
And then they're looking at life. I mean, a lot of guys have written me. I get emails all the time from guys in trouble, guys living in their cars and emailing me from their library, and all they're facing is a life of abject poverty. That they have to work for the next 10 to 15 years and turn over a huge portion of all their income. Screw them if they run out of food. Too bad. Just get your ass to work and pay. It's like the child support mafia. They don't care about excuses. They want the money or they're going to come for you. And looking at that, I think makes a lot of guys despondent and desperate. And that's where you see men decide to check out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course,
you're right. It's a modern day mafia. That's exactly what it is.
Absolutely. And of course, the mental health industry, they don't give a fuck.
No.
They don't care at all.
No.
It's like I said, you can ask them about men's suicide and they'll get pissed off at you for asking.
Yeah, because you're supposed to say that it's women that suffer the most from that.
Yes. What they'll do is they tell you, and I've encountered this 100 times, well, Paul, women try to kill themselves more than men do. And I'm like, what the fuck did you just say? Are you saying that women are, what's the problem? That they're incompetent? And they can't is that to help women? I'm like, God, it's like, what would it take to make you care about the life of a man?
I just don't get it. Jenny's tried to kill herself for the 3rd time and she just can't get it right.
Yes. All she did was get high at Oxycontin.
Yes. And I was so lucky last time she took the pills 5 minutes before I got home from work.
Now she's drooling on the couch with Dorito dust in her cleavage.
Yes.
Oh my God. So what would happen if you offered advice to women on how to better kill themselves?
You know something? Occasionally I write really provocative articles.
Yes, I know.
I think you just put a very bad idea in my head.
I'd love to see it because I know you did Bash a Bitch Month or whatever.
Oh, yeah. I've done a few more. I had one that was, I'll tell you if you were raped.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not your choice. But I think, maybe in an effort, honest from my heart, to help women, because they seem to be intent on killing themselves. Maybe they just have a lack of information.
Yeah, they're just not very good at it. They need to be taught. If you want to know how to kill yourself on the first try, read the. Here's how
Yeah.
you do it.
Well, in all seriousness, I'm not going to write that article because we are talking about people who are suicidal,
Of
and
course.
some women do kill themselves. So I'm not going to have a part of that. But the the satire is tempting because of all the. I mean, you talk about to mental health people. Hey, we got X amount of guys. We got 25 veterans a day are killing themselves,
Yeah, Jesus.
and they will say two of those are female.
Yes, yes.
So let's focus on the women. It's like, man, I just want to shoot them.
Or the articles that say 1 in every 4 homeless people is a woman.
Yes, and,
Did you
and
know? Yeah.
yeah, that's the world we live in. That's the problem we have. And to me, the only solution to any of this, well, we've got a couple of solutions, and it's called MGTOW and it's called MRA.
Hmm.
These are two solutions. MRAs are a lot more focused on, I think, some a different line of information than MGTOW. We do get involved in some of the legal stuff, but the first things first is don't get married.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I have really made it a point to tell people all these years, 98, maybe 99% of men's rights issues can be resolved with the decisions that men make.
Hmm.
If they don't get married, if they don't cohabitate in a place that will turn that into a marriage,
Hmm.
if they don't make stupid decisions with women, then they're less likely to end up dead. I'm sorry, but I mean, and I think we have to put the responsibility on men to make those choices because literally, I mean, we're socialized with romantic chivalry, but as a guy who's been married twice, I didn't have a gun to my head either time.
Yeah.
I was doing what I thought I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And guess what? It didn't end well. I know you find that shocking.
Well, my father's on his second marriage, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Why did you get married a second time? You had a pension, retirement, the world by the balls. What made you want to get married again? For whatever reason, maybe it's biology or just some form of primordial mindset of men is to get married. Like you said, you've been married twice, and you didn't learn your lesson. It just goes to show you that it's something bigger at play.
Well, trust me, I have learned my lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing, I think a lot of a lot of it is biological, and I think it's a drive to reproduce.
Sure, it
You
is.
know.
And we wrap marriage around the drive to reproduce.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the things I love about MGTOW philosophy and what I see going on in that community and in the MRA community is that we're taking a second look at that and
Yeah.
saying, oh, that's fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Why do we need to wrap marriage around the act of sex?
Yeah. Well, and not only just the act of sex, but even now, you just to have a kid with a woman is dangerous,
Sure
regardless
it
of
is.
what the circumstances are. It's very, very dangerous.
It is treacherously
Yeah.
dangerous anymore. I mean, and it's sad.
It
Because
is sad.
I'm the first guy to admit the nuclear family was the best thing that ever happened to the human species
Yeah.
when it was protected and when it wasn't this onerous, disgusting burden to put on men.
Yeah.
And there was a time when that was so. As a matter of fact, the word matrimony is comes from the understanding that marriage is about a girl turning into a woman.
Hmm. Yeah.
And of course, we've lost sight of that.
Before we end the night, I just want your take. What do you see from a woman's angle? I mean, they're very rudderless. They're taking in information that's not from the family unit. They don't listen to their fathers. They see their mothers divorce their fathers and think that's what's supposed to happen. There's many dating profiles I've seen on various apps where looking for my future ex-husband. Like that's not
Yeah.
how you go about finding a husband. If a guy sees that, he's just going to
Well,
use and abuse you, and toss
it's
you toss you the side. Go on.
It's been happening for so long now. I mean, this corruption of the family unit that now it's just a joke to women now.
Yes.
Absolutely. And what would I tell women? I tell women, one, I know you're miserable. So we can just skip all over the bullshit. I mean, all the research points in the direction that women are more miserable than they've ever been.
Hmm.
And I'm happy to tell any woman, if she actually wants any kind of balance and happiness in her life, she will surrender herself to masculine leadership.
Yep, 100%,
And
man.
if she won't do that, you're going to be miserable. And you don't have to like it, but it's true.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know what that means.
No, she's going to have to find out. She's going to have to own her own misery. She's going to have to take a look at what her life is really like. I mean, women were promised, oh yeah, you just come in the workforce like men. Well, hey, you'll be empowered.
Yeah.
And then 90% of them end up in cubicles somewhere with bags under their eyes
Yep.
and pictures of kids stuck to the wall who barely even know who they are anymore. That's what they got out of it, and then they wonder why they're miserable.
Yeah.
But if women want any kind of happiness, it's going to have to come because they're willing to submit to a man.
Well, if a large percent, if a miracle would be if suddenly overnight, 80% of the male population just walked away.
I dream about such days.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
No, it's not going to happen. That's why I've added miracle. But
Well, hey, look, there's over 50 million people out of work right now, so something's going to give. We've just papered over the economy. The damage is there. We know it. Men are fully aware of it. Men most certainly are aware of the situation, what is at stake in the United States at this current juncture. So, like I mentioned before, the days of brunch, sweetheart, on a Sunday in Chelsea District, Manhattan, not happening anymore.
Not at all.
So, all right. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to get you on again in the future, and it was an absolute pleasure.
It was a pleasure here too, man. Really enjoyed the conversation. You guys keep up the good work.
right on, man, and write some more of those articles so they can add to your wiki page.
Okay, yeah. I will be forever immortalized by my kind words. You guys have a great one.
Okay, take care, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was good.
All right.
Yeah, it went well.
Well, we're still live.
Ooh. Ooh, AM's not calling it quits.
No, I'm going to call it quits pretty quick, but I mean, there's nobody listening, man.
Nah, we'll upload it. It's all right.
All right. But
There's no warnings.
okay. Anyway, I think I put the wrong logo up. I put a voice for men. I should have put regarding men, but I didn't know. So, anyway, that was the talk, gentlemen, with Paul Elam. As far as future streams go, they will happen, but I can't commit as I used to for the time being, because I literally I have a headache and I'm suffering depression from the goddamn internet, man.
Well, I got some news. I'll be doing a live stream with T Kelly 67 on Wednesday. I'll upload it onto the channel. I have a website. I created a website. Should be ready in a couple of weeks. I'm still writing some material, and I got a lot of things going on in my personal life. So I got a couple like B-sides I'll upload, and me and Ian will talk about what we're doing going forward into 2021, if there is a 2021.
If there is a 2021, yeah.
But you guys can check me out. I'm now writing for the American Sun. I'll put the links up, and I'm going to focus on a little bit more writing for the time being, because it seems to be going pretty well. Got a lot of hits, got a lot of views, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, it looks good, man. Yeah, I'm happy for you in that regard. So you're getting a little bit more out of the social media than I have. Well, I don't know. I've just put so much time in it in the past, right? So
Well, I lost my Twitter account, so I've kind of been off social media.
okay.
Better off, man. That is toxic.
Oh.
Twitter is toxic poison, man.
Yeah, I don't know how people can stay on that. It's unbelievably horrible. And I mean, I even got off Facebook because it was pointless. Every 3 days, I'd get a 30-day ban.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point?
100%.
What is the fucking point? So anyway, man, we'll end the stream there. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Stick around the channel. We'll be around. Don't worry about that. And Nick Lamprey, you put up the put up the links too when this goes up for all the stuff you're doing, so people can start following you.
All right. Very well.
All right, guys. Take care.